I don't want to do this.
Just because we're going to get dragged for the next week?
I'm not going to read the comments. I don't care. I don't care. Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
This is I'm watching Euphoria, Season 2, Episode 8.
All my life, my heart has yearned for a thing I cannot name.
Ooh. I think right out of the gate, I'm going to say we quite literally just watched this and came in and sat down. So I haven't processed everything. In an ideal world, I would probably watch it again and think about it. But because of scheduling, we have to get it done and get it out. So I
have a job again.
I am reserving the right to change or evolve my opinions on things. I'm largely coming at this from a very immediate sort of knee-jerk place.
I mean, we have the whole season, but this was a doozy.
Yeah, well, I have loved this show, and I have really enjoyed this season, to be quite honest. I have not enjoyed the interactive element of it. I have not. I think that the Euphoria fandom is probably as bad, if not worse, than Drag Race. It's like a really hostile, a lot of takes, and there's no room for
shades of gray,
nuanced interpretation for different perspectives, life experiences, what have you. So
this is all a preface to say that while I don't agree with Cassie's decisions, she was fucking hilarious in this episode.
I thought, so I think, because that's another thing, is it's like, to say one thing doesn't automatically inverse the other.
Yeah.
Like, to say I like the sun doesn't mean that I hate the moon.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I actually found Cassie's arc this season very interesting. And I am aware that she's annoying. I picked up on it. I as well picked up on that. I found it interesting.
Yeah.
It in a weird way, I did watch a video. I do not remember his name to credit him. I'll put it in the notes if I can. But I watched an essay on YouTube, and he was talking about Cassie, about how she was weirdly the villain of the season. And he was like focusing on her placement from season 1 to 2 and to where she could go in season 3. Because I do think she has a redemption arc.
Oh, for sure. I mean, ruining the play is bad. It goes again to the thing where I'm like, that is the part that would humiliate me the most.
So here's my hot take.
Being up on stage would be more humiliating to me than being a character in the play.
Here's my hot take. And this is the one that's going to get the booze and tomatoes going. I don't know where Lexi gets off.
In what exact capacity?
Airing all of her dirty laundry with her family and friends in front of the school in this manner, and the way that this show holds it up like it's some victory.
So
you can't talk about people that way. You can't do things like that way without getting the consent and the input from the people involved. And yes, I understand she changed a few names. It was crystal clear.
It was, of course, crystal clear. So I agree with you to a point. I think you should get permission. I think you should discuss it with the people. However, I think it is also important to note that the only people who didn't like it were Nate and Cassie.
And that confuses me. I was very confused watching this episode because there's an understanding or an assumption a lot of times that a work of art has a moral perspective or a moral lesson. And that's not the case. But I'm watching this. I'm like, she's being rewarded for this. And I want to encourage what got her to this point.
Yeah.
The creativity, the funneling your emotion, your grief, your trauma, your stuff, blah, 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 into art. I mean, there is elements of me and my friends and my family dynamics in my art, but this was kind of a 1-for-1. Like she changed the names, but there was nothing.
Yeah. And
that's where, because I was sort of fighting with the show in my head watching it, because I was like, this is also where it is a TV show. And so I was really trying, because I like Lexi and I like so many parts of it, but it's specifically the Cassie on the carousel for me. What was her because I remember that scene from season 1 and I felt very passionately about it. Because Cassie and Maddie were at the carnival. They were high. I think it was E.
Cassie was super high.
Cassie's kind of in space.
Yeah.
And she is riding a carousel and comes real hard.
Yeah.
And when she comes out of it, she like realizes that everyone saw it and was judging her. And I thought it was a really weird, strange, interesting scene because the way that they had set up her character, she had this everybody's beautiful, perfect, sweet little girl, like the teenage dream, like all that stuff. And I liked that she experienced this sexual awakening and that her moral or her what she got from it was shame.
Yeah.
Which is so often the case, especially because if she's meant to be a good girl, you know what I mean? And so I thought it was really very interesting. And the way that Lexi was seemingly weaponizing it against her in this play, I didn't understand. Like, I didn't understand what the point of that was. And yes, I understand that she betrayed her best friend with a boy who is bad. I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm good. That well is full up. I understand that it's not good. I agree that it's not good. But it's like the way that I am viewing the show, the way that I'm watching the show, the way that I'm, the things that I'm taking, it's like that is people are I feel like I'm losing.
No, you're good. I feel you on the edge of something. So
people contain multitudes.
Yeah.
And somebody's bad decision here, I don't know. I really did lose my narrative string, but because I'm not entirely, I'm very confused because again, Zendaya loved the play.
Yeah. I mean, Zendaya probably did too.
Loved the play. And I think that's great.
Play. Jules loved the play. Maddie loved the play.
But if I'm writing a book about the death of your mother and I change your name to Christine or Christy and don't run that by you.
Yeah.
Don't let you know it's happening and then present it in front of everybody that we know.
I'm not the one to ask about this
but I'm saying it's weird. And so that's where I'm very confused with what I feel like we're meant to take from it.
Yeah.
And now granted, and maybe this is what we're meant to take. And if that's the case, then I actually kind of love it because we're getting a third season.
Yep. Sometime in the next
what I would imagine
future.
I'm going into this like final.
Yeah.
Third and final season. So if we're looking at this as a middle arc and we're looking at it as these people's journeys from youth through adolescence into adulthood, that's a mistake I could see myself making.
Sure.
At 17 or 18 in high school is thinking, I'm going to do this big play. It's my time to shine. And also I'm going to let everyone know where they stand in the meantime. And
like rearranging your MySpace friends.
Yes. And so where I'm confused is this overwhelming sort of applause or this reception that it was met with. I find it very strange.
I don't know.
I've been talking a lot. You
sort of get it. I sort of get why everybody would like it because I also think it goes back to the thing you said last week where you're like, I think the rest of the student body just like hates these 6 people. So kind of watching them get dragged might be fun.
So is it as simple as that as the rest of them are grounded enough to be able to be like, we deserve that or that's fair or.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Because right now Rue is sober and she understands the bad things she's done. And she's
but that's surprising to me that she's fine because if that's what.
Well, she explains it to Lexi at the end. She's like, you're the first person who I've been able to see myself and not hate myself the way that you did this in the play, the way you explained everything, the way you talked about my dad. I like it was cathartic for Rue in a way. And like I don't think she only portrayed Cassie in a bad light. Like they didn't even get to the boyfriend stealing because she was like, no, of course I didn't put that in the play. Like this is all past stuff. And so I don't know. It's interesting. And I think the thing is like, if Nate hadn't reacted that way and walked up and left, this thing would have sort of blown over. And if Cassie had not charged the stage, she put the button on it. Cassie put the button on this. Like, yes, it's very clearly a 1-for-1, about this group of girls. But the fact that they both made a public stink about it is the only reason people are going to like actually point at them and be like, you are the one from the play. Like, nobody's going to point at Rue
I would
and
accept.
say, no one's going to point at Rue and say, you're the one from the play. But they'll do it to Cassie because she went up there and had a slap fight with her sister and her friends. You know what I mean? Like, you're drawing more attention to yourself by saying, this is all fake and Lexi's a bitch. And it's like, at that point, the whole audience is already on Lexi's side. They already were there. You can't then get on stage and be like, Lexi's a bitch.
Well, I think so, and I mean this sort of jokingly, but I think it sends a dangerous precedent to young artists out there.
Sure, that's accurate.
that their lives are this entertaining and and that if they were more self-indulgent through their art, that they'll be rewarded in this way.
I'm going to need everybody to take a quick reminder that an adult man wrote this show. An adult man. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's why I started it the way where I was like, I definitely want to watch it again. I definitely want to listen to what a few people have to say about it because, like I said, there are so many things going on that it's just sort of, I don't know. I just know better than to keep going.
Yeah.
But I did really, really, really love the end scene with them in the bathroom after this kerfuffle with.
Okay. That was my favorite. I loved
in which Maddie,
episode.
Every one of her nails is intact.
I mean, queen. That's queen level shit. All of her nails are intact, and she has one scratch on her foot that she's icing with a Coke can. Meanwhile, Cassie's hair is a total mess. She's bleeding from the nose, and she's got scratches on her face. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
And Kat is still there.
Kat is still there.
And
so
who's the other girl?
I don't ever remember her name.
She's been in all of these scenes, but she's had no material or minimal material.
Yeah,
it's like BB or something.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Let's go with that. We get a sense that, especially because of Lexi's play and all that, we get a sense that this is like a mythical group of friends, of ride or die through thick and thin, better and worse. And so the fact that after they've finally had this physical
altercation.
Yes, but
catharsis.
Yeah, releasing of pent up energy.
Yeah.
That they are actually sort of just sitting in it together. And the fact that Maddie still is talking to Cassie, it implies that the bridge is not burned. She's in the doghouse.
I think Maddie's over it now.
Do you?
I don't think they're going to be like bosom friends again right away, but I think Maddie's over it, especially because of that last line exchange where Cassie says, well, if it makes you feel any better, or however she phrased it, Nate broke up with me before I even went on stage. And Maddie just looks at her and is like, it's not the end. It's just the beginning. And I just like, you can sense so many things in it because then it cuts back to Cassie and you can sort of see her being like, oh God, it's not over. Like, I have to keep doing this. And Maddie is sort of like, you made your bed. You made this choice. And, just because he left and broke up with you doesn't mean he's not going to try crawling back. And you'll go to him. Like, Cassie will go to him because she has that hole inside her that she thinks Nate is able to fill, and he's just not. I thought it was family annihilation time in this episode.
I mean, I really, really did. I don't remember the last time I watched a show where I was so for like 5 episodes in a row.
Out of all the characters I thought we were going to lose, and we didn't lose any of the ones I thought.
I was so certain that someone was going to die.
Yeah.
And then it just didn't happen. And again, we did lose someone, but I want to touch on the Nate and Cal thing. I'm so confused. So he turned his dad in, basically. Yeah. What was with the gun? Just insurance?
I still think he might be a family annihilator.
So part of me was like, is he going to ultimatum his dad where he's like, you get to pick one?
I'll kill you or you get turned in.
Yeah. I don't know.
The thing for me that I'm concerned about is the Jules tape on that thumb drive. because he's like, it's everything.
So what is the crime is filming people without their permission?
Yeah, because it's also filming sex, so it is technically like pornography.
Okay.
But only the Jules one, I think, is the child pornography.
But at this point, unless that's what Nate led with, which I suppose is possible, that he led with that I can recall, we had no reason to believe that Cal's thing was underage people. Yeah. We had to believe that his thing was unique people, LGBT, you know what I mean? And as if we needed a button put on that.
Can't get you out of my head.
The weirdest group of people I've ever seen in my life were listening to Kylie Minogue, Can't Get You Out of My Head.
Okay, I'm sorry. Here is the thing for me about this episode. When you have that group of people, those specific people in a room, and you make them grasp their pearls with something that you say, I think you've said too much. Because Nate was like, I used to dream that it was you fucking me instead of the people in the videos. And the two gay guys were like, oh.
But it just sort of, it's where the show confuses me all along, and or this episode especially, but this has been kind of keeping me on my toes, is I'm like, so what are we meant to take from this? Because it's like, yes, Nate deserves, it's the same thing with the Cassie Maddie situation, Cassie Maddie Lexi situation, where it's like, yes, Nate deserves his
comeuppance.
Well,
revenge.
Sure, revenge. He yes, he deserves to stick it to Cal, but also that doesn't absolve him
of his crime.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like, I've said it a lot recently about other stuff, like a similar thing, because like Gossip Girl, where I'm like, just because you're poor doesn't make you morally superior to the rich person. And so I have the same vibe with Nate, where I'm like, just because your dad was shitty to you doesn't give you license to be shitty to other people.
Again, unless I'm forgetting some huge thing, it's like Cal was indirectly terrible with Nate. He wasn't locking him in a freezer. Like, he wasn't like...
That's from Teen Wolf. I don't remember specifically. But I think again, God, I'm making the worst references tonight. But again, I think it's kind of the Gossip Girl thing, where I think he's kind of like the captain, where I think he was sort of like, I think he was kind of being shitty. I think most of it was indirect. I also don't really remember if there was like a huge button put on it in season 1, but it's just a whole trail of toxic masculinity, like all the way down, that it's like, but even that.
Still, I feel like so much of it was implied. Like, were we seeing him beating the gay out of his son, or don't you cry in front of me, boy, and all that? Like,
no, it doesn't have to be that.
He just sort of loomed over him in this way that I kept assuming was from a place of anger or aggression or hatred or whatever. But then we come to find out that it's just sort of a vacancy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know.
Because there were several comments about how, because when I said back when Cal told off his family, and I was kind of like, the truth and nothing but the truth, I was speaking flippantly when I said that. There was a lot of things that he said there that were way out of pocket. And yes, he is, and to an extent was, an adult that made a choice. And now he has to deal with the consequences of his choices and not just deflect blame onto them, which is largely what he did.
Yeah.
I don't think entirely, but I think largely what he did. However, I think that's where we come up to, though he made a quote unquote bad choice, he made the choice that was correct at the time.
By leaving his family?
The staying with Marcia, who was pregnant.
When she got pregnant. Okay.
And they were like, I think there's a lot of people who are like, he's too cowardly to be gay. And I'm like, I don't think it's about that. I think it's about, because that was the 90s. I was like,
yeah.
I don't
think it's about that anymore. I think it was a little when he was in high school, because his dad was a real ball buster.
Yeah. Which, I mean, and that is something that I'm actually very passionate about, is it's like most of the time when people do things, it's for a reason.
Yeah.
They're not just sort of completely wilding out for no...
for funsies.
Like, no, like if somebody's shitty, it's usually coming from somewhere.
Right.
And so it's like, and I think that's largely why he was like, I want to break the cycle, even though he did it in a very terrible way. But
that's the thing. You can't break the cycle that way. You have to break the cycle by behaving the opposite. Like, I believe, if anything, I believe that he was behaving more like his father with Nate. As opposed to recognizing that what his father did was damaging to his psyche and his self-identity and, you know, his potential happiness in the world, because he absolutely would have been happier with Derek than Marcia probably, and he wouldn't feel like he has to do this stuff on the side and be these two different people. And I think instead of...
Because he talked about how it fractures a person.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Instead of...
Your own personal Horcrux.
And because there's no therapy in the Jacobs family, instead of...
Or the Euphoria world.
Instead of recognizing that his father raised him badly and he should raise his sons differently than that, he just sort of doubled down and did the same thing. And so that is where Nate doesn't stand a chance, because he is a product of this cycle of toxic masculinity and like an expectation of masculinity and stuff. And it's just like, it's really bad. Because
that brings us to this scene. So now what? He's just better because his dad's going to jail?
No, absolutely not.
Do you know what I mean? And so I'm sort of, and it's like, it has nothing to do with dislike. This has nothing to do with me not liking this. I was pretty enraptured.
Yeah.
There was a couple places in the episode where I was like,
so, okay,
and on the note, I'd like to play a 5-minute song.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful song. The thing about this show for me is that I have a little bit of a harder time watching it and grasping it because it is a Sam Levinson special. It feels like a dream.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a dream of a show. And so there are some episodes that are less like that. That are more straightforward. This episode especially felt, because it kept on going again, like last week, in and out of the play and in and out of the past, and like sometimes in the future, but then the future was in the play, and so it was like
there was a part of me that was bargaining where I was like, let's just go ahead and like wipe the slate and just be like, and that was all the play.
Yeah,
everything that you've seen so far was Lexi's play, because it just sort of. I don't know. That's what I was trying to say is I was like, it's not that I'm liking it or disliking or anything. It's sort of a, but for what?
Yeah.
Like, to what end or why? Mm-hmm. And that's not a bad thing. No. I just don't know how I feel about it in the moment. And especially coming off of a heightened episode finale to a heightened season. Yeah. My mind was reeling. Like,
yeah, for sure.
There was a point when Rue was talking to Lexi about the play where I could tell I kept drifting.
Yeah.
Because I was already trying to decide what I thought and how I felt about it. Because what is the play trying, or what is the show trying to say? And can you answer this question? What is it trying to say about Rue's father's death and her substance abuse? Is it,
It broke her.
So is it trying to say that because her dad died, she's now an addict, or is it not that simple?
It's not that simple, but her dad died, and that's when she's reading the eulogy, and she's like, this is the part in the movie where the main character is broken forever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think her dad dying made her an addict, but it made her want to be numb, which led her to drugs. And so, because the grief was too much, you know, she lost her dad, and he was like her best friend, and that sucks. And she had to watch him die because he died at home. It was, you know,
and this ends on
present
on a very poignant, melancholy note for Rue, where Zendaya is so good. I don't say it a lot because I feel like it goes without saying.
She's so good.
I'm like, we don't need to. And also because you can tell that she's clean because she looks good.
Yeah, she looks amazing.
She's looked great in these last 2 episodes. But it ends with her sort of like walking out of the school alone, like all the rest of the shenanigans has faded to the background, the periphery. And she's sort of like, I was clean for the rest of the school year, and I don't. What did she say, or has
she said? I wish that that it was because I chose to, but it actually just ended up being easier.
And it's very sort of like that's kind of dark, and that's kind of melancholy. But there was the oh so necessary light that she was like, I hope or wish or want for it to be better later.
Yeah.
There was a note of that in the end.
I also, not for nothing, as she was walking away and she was by herself and she was sort of in the back of the school, I thought that Lori in a van was going to like swing through and grab her. I don't know if anything's going to come from that.
Because that's not, I think something will, and I think it probably should, but also that's not this type of show.
I've seen a handful of things on the internet and on like TikTok where we actually don't know how long Lori had Rue, but there were multiple injection sites in her arm. So like maybe she feels she got her money back.
I don't know, because I don't think we're done with Lori.
Yeah.
Because they also implicated her in Mouse's murder.
Yeah.
So
that was some fucking thinking on Faye.
I bet.
Faye.
I bet big and I bet hard on Faye very early on.
You did good.
And I'm glad that I did, because
she was one of the other people I swore was going to die in this episode.
She waited till 11:55 at night, then she was like, "Hoochoo, hoochoo."
Yeah. She did it. She did the thing. When she dropped that glass, I thought she was just nervous, and then when Fez looked down at her and she shook her head, I was like, "Yes!" I was like, "Faye for the win!"
The last minute. Oh my God.
Well, she was sort of, she was trying, I feel like.
I think she was thinking.
Yeah.
Like, I think, although she had a whole fucking, I don't know, week, but he told her like the night before or whatever. And she, I don't know, somewhere blowing bubbles. But.
I don't know how quick the neurons are firing.
Quick enough!
In old Faye.
Quick enough, because she was like, "Oh, you mean Lori, the one that you told me about." So he, clearly the cops were outside.
Yeah.
And he had his phone was transmitting to them, and that's what the case was. Okay. What do you take?
Pour one out.
Well, so something very interesting to me about this plot, and I think in time I will apply it to all the plots, but there are reasons for why we do things the way we do as a society, societally, socially, yada, yada. Reasons why we have the ages in which, driving age,
drinking age,
adulthood, blah, blah, blah. And some of those are like the drinking age. Some argue could or should change. My point is that there is a social wisdom why we do things the way that we do. And I like that this show, there's a lot of talk about how like young people don't have their brains fully developed to be able to make the right choices. So that's why young people cannot exist in adult worlds or behave appropriately.
And consent to adult behavior.
And so to have Ashtray, who was effectively raised in an adult world and treated like an adult his entire life, I think he thinks he is.
Yeah.
I think he thought he knew what needed to be done and how to do it.
Yep.
And
because he was right before. He's been right before. He was right. Cal needed to get pistol whipped in the head. I mean,
Yeah. But again, it's like they're in this mess. We're in this entire mess. Lori is only around because he did that to Mouse and Custer. And so it's like, because I'm trying to think if they could have gotten away, because they still would have been raided, even if.
They would have still been raided, but if Ashtray hadn't stabbed Custer in the throat,
it would have been the three of them against Custer. Like their word
against his. And if the three of them towed the line and they were like, nope, it was Lori, they could have brought down Lori and then they could have been the drug game in town again. You know what I mean? So
the second Ashtray did it, I was like,
yeah, I was like, oh no. Ashtray.
And you could just see Fez bargaining the whole episode, trying to like get the upper hand.
Yeah.
Like trying to win it back.
Yep. He's usually so on top of shit, but he was distracted by Lexi. And now he's been shot. He's still alive, but Fez has been shot and he's in custody. So.
And friendly fire. It was by Ashtray.
Yeah, Ashtray is the one that shot him.
But that kid, what is his name?
I had it a minute ago. His name is Javon Walton.
He was great.
He is so good.
He was great in this show.
So good.
And I think that says a lot considering how much I actually liked him.
Yeah. He also doesn't speak.
No.
Ever. But his face, he does so much face work. It's just amazing. And then he just shot him in the head. I'm sad.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. I think that I don't think that there's going to be this like gaping hole in the show.
No, but I am curious. I'm interested and curious into what it's going to do to Fez.
Because also, from our perspective as an audience member, we don't know what or how Fez and Lexi have what's to come there. Because they still haven't even. She doesn't even know this happened.
Yeah, because he missed the play and she doesn't know why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
You love how ride or die the entire cast and crew of the play was for their master and commander Lexi. It was like
they were like ready to go down.
And that's what
and Bobby was like, what are we gonna
do? She's like, trust in Lexi's
in
Lexi's genius.
Yeah.
I just sort of, and because that's part of my whole, like, within my frustrations and everything is because there's times where certain plots I take very personally to heart. Mm-hmm. Like, what would I do in my real life if this happened to me? And other plots, I'm like, it's all heightened. Nothing really matters. And so that I have to kind of keep reminding myself, especially with the Lexi Cassie situation, that it's like, this is that very real grounded emotion was still happening in a very heightened show.
Right.
And so there's an element, because I think I said in our first episode where I was like, I have a theory that this show doesn't depict reality as it is. Mm-hmm. It depicts reality the way it feels as a teenager.
Right. To which I would then also argue, because I agree with you about like asking for permission, but also Cassie went real mean with what she was saying. She was like, oh yeah, it must be so hard being in my shadow.
Well, but I can't help it. I really can't. Lexi was implying that though. Lexi is the one who laid it all down for her to pick up and throw.
She was presenting it differently. And Cassie used it as a weapon. Lexi used it as like this is a character trait of mine. And then Cassie weaponized that. I'm way more Team Lexi than Team Cassie. For sure.
I mean, Lexi's a good person.
Yeah.
And certainly a better person and capable of growth in a way that Cassie's gonna need
a minute.
An exorcism at a minimum.
At a minimum, Suze.
So we can get her to Miss Jeanette out in the swamp.
Yeah, right.
True Blood coverage coming soon.
Yeah, I don't know. Overall, I really liked it. There was a nice scene with Jules and Rue at the end where Jules came up because Rue was still sitting there kind of processing, and she was like, I know you're still mad at me, but I just want you to know that I love you and I miss you.
So what do you think the implication of that? Because Rue kisses Jules on the head.
Yeah.
So but
then she leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was both like,
I think it was a real, I want to forgive you and I want to forget you.
It kind of had that.
We're making some tough references in this episode.
There was an ebb and flow to it, and I'm very curious because we alluded to it, but we didn't mention that Rue went and forgave Elliot. Yeah. And it was a very poignant, very interesting scene. I liked Elliot. I liked Elliot and Rue. I liked Elliot, Rue, and Jules.
Yeah.
And I wonder if this is the point of that. Dominic, his name's Dominic, right? Yeah. Dominic Fike. He said he's back. He's in season 3. Because frankly, I almost wonder if it would be more poignant if he weren't. If the point of it was that though they liked each other, and had a good time with each other, they were bad for each other,
which they both admitted at different times. So yeah, I mean, it could go either way.
I'm curious. I hope Jules continues with her therapy. Mm-hmm. I think she desperately needs it because I think she's doing well. Yeah. But I hope that whatever this rumored tension between Barbie Ferreira and Sam Levinson is, I would hope that it goes away and or gets dealt with because I don't want to lose her.
This season was a total waste of Barbie Ferreira's talents, and I'm actually kind of pissed about it.
Well, anything good was her. Yeah. It was her reactions. Mm-hmm. It was her presence, I think.
Yeah, I'll bet you that's why we had a 5-minute song, because they had to cut cat stuff, probably.
The way I understood it, it wouldn't.
They didn't even film some of it.
That way, yeah.
Okay.
and again, this is gossip. Like, this is rumors and stuff. But I would hope that we could finish this
with all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to bring Ethan back. I want to get more.
My God.
There. I want to know what was the brain tumor? What did she call it?
Oh, a
terminal brain disorder. I really want to. I want to go back to that.
Yeah, let's figure that out.
So, what do you think? Anything to say about the episode, the season, or what's to come?
I liked it. I'm so glad it's over though, because I am stressed. I just have been stressed every Sunday night.
I could keep watching it. I don't want to keep covering.
Yeah.
I mean, I will like when it comes back.
Season 3,
but I'm saying like
by
as
that
of
point,
8,
we will forget how bad we were burned.
We're gonna come back and it'll be like, Cassie's such a fucking bitch. Where does she get off? With, like, I'm gonna forget everything. Just.
Oh man.
So, all right. I'm rooting for Zendaya and Sydney Sweeney at this year's Emmys.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
That could.
It could definitely. I agree.
So, all right. Well, hopefully you had fun. And if you didn't, I don't care. And check out some of our other content. You can watch Gossip Girl, or we're currently covering Drag Race. Riverdale will be back soon. There's a lot of stuff.
We're about to start True Blood in like a week and a half. So
like and subscribe and hit us up.
Bye.
We actually didn't talk about Lexi weirdly outing Nate.
I know, we already got in trouble for that last week.
Well, I was going to bring it back up to be like, yes, I actually, again, it's like though Nate deserves it. Nate deserves to be taken down.
Well, it's like it's the thing that Lexi said the whole time that Fez told her. Sometimes people need to get their feelings hurt, and it's like that doesn't negate
in front of everybody they know.
Well, that doesn't negate the fact that she outed him, but again, it's like nobody is arguing that there might be some artistic license. Like, there is no indication that Nate is actually gay.
That's
you know what I mean?
True.
And so like it's the only reason that is a big deal is because he is internalizing that because Cal fucked him up as a dad.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that she did out him. It just that the homoerotic boys locker room is like a staple of the teen genre. You can leave this in.
That's fine. I actually loved his like that shit's homophobic. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
It definitely was. So I guess people contain multitudes.
Yeah, you'd imagine.